Welcome to Module 9, Unit 2, Geometry Boundary Padding, a part of our image analysis series. In this unit, we'll explore how digital images handle their edges when filters are applied. You'll learn why padding is needed, how different padding methods affect the results, and how these techniques are implemented in image processing tools like MATLAB. By the end, you'll understand how to manage image borders effectively and ensure accurate filtering operations in your image analysis projects. In the previous unit, we introduced the concept of digital filter convolution. When applying a filter, the center of the filter aligns with each pixel in the image, covering a small region around it. Here, the red grid represents a 3 by 3 digital filter, and its center, shown in yellow, marks the pixel being processed. The blue grid below represents an 8 by 16 digital image. As the filter moves across the image, notice what happens when it reaches the edges. The filter can no longer fully cover the border pixels. This challenge is known as the border geometry problem. Here, we can clearly see what happens when a 3 by 3 filter reaches the border of an image. The filter's center, shown in yellow, aligns with a pixel near the top left corner. However, some parts of the filter extend beyond the image boundary. Those pink areas have no corresponding pixels underneath. Because of this missing data, the convolution operation can't be fully computed at the border. This is why we need geometry boundary padding, a method to fill in or estimate the missing pixels so the filtering process can continue smoothly across the entire image. This diagram shows how border geometry affects the area that can be fully processed by a filter. The region inside the red rectangle represents full coverage, where the filter fits completely within the image, and every pixel has matching data. Outside that region, shown in pink, the filter extends beyond the image boundaries, leaving some elements with no pixel values to work with. As the filter size increases, this fully covered area becomes smaller, which means the output image will shrink unless we use padding to extend the borders. Let's look at how padding works in practice. Here we have a 5 by 5 digital filter. When the filter's center moves to the corners of the image, parts of it extend outside the image boundaries. The gray areas show where there's no coverage. The height and width of each gray region are exactly half the filter size, so in this case we need to pad the image with 2 rows and 2 columns on each side. Next, we'll look at different ways to fill those padded areas. There are several common methods for handling border geometry during image filtering. The simplest option is padding with a constant value, either 0, which represents the darkest intensity, or 255, the brightest. However, both can produce unrealistic edges in the result. A smoother approach is to pad with the average value of the image, which helps blend the borders more naturally. Finally, padding with a mirror image often gives the most seamless results, since it reflects the actual edge pixels and preserves the visual continuity of the image. Padding with a mirror image works just like placing a mirror along the edge of the picture. The reflected area represents the padding, an exact flipped copy of the original image's edge. This method helps maintain smooth transitions at the borders, preventing sharp intensity changes or artificial edges that can occur with other padding methods. In image processing, mirror padding often produces the most natural-looking results, especially when filters are applied near boundaries. In MATLAB, there's a built-in function called conv2 that performs two-dimensional convolution between an image and a filter. The idea is simple. It slides the filter across the image, multiplies the overlapping values, and sums them up to produce the filtered result. When you use the option labeled Same, MATLAB automatically adjusts the output to keep the same size as the original image. One important thing to remember is that conv2 handles pixels at the edges by using zero padding, meaning it assumes the area outside the image is filled with zeros. Here we see a simple example that demonstrates how convolution works in MATLAB. Instead of using a two-dimensional image, we start with a one-dimensional sequence of numbers. A small filter, made up of 3 equal values, slides along this sequence to calculate an average at each position. This operation smooths out rapid changes in the data, a process we often call a moving average. The same concept applies to images, where convolution filters help smooth, sharpen, or detect patterns by averaging or emphasizing pixel values. That wraps up our discussion on geometry boundary padding. We've seen how filters interact with image borders, why padding is needed, and how different padding methods, such as zero, maximum, average, and mirror, help preserve image quality near the edges. If anything was unclear, or you'd like to go over a particular method again, now's a great time to ask your questions.